Thanks for listening to our daily devotional. Lesson today is I know, but how many times have you heard it? Maybe even said it. Somebody knows something. You know how something is to be done. You know who's in charge. You know how to accomplish something. You say, well, I know, but, and then from there, it goes to excuses or reasoning why you don't follow something that you claim to know. In our reading yesterday, we find what's oftentimes called the Christian's marching orders in Matthew, the 28th chapter, and Mark, the 16th chapter. You find in Matthew 28, verse 18 through 20, Jesus says, I have all power in heaven and earth. I mean, there's nobody higher than him. Paul would say later, he's the King of kings, Lord of lords. And you look and he says, I have all power given unto me in heaven and earth. And he says, go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I've commanded you always, even unto the end of the world. Now you look at that and you think how many times people look at various components of that command and say, well, I know, but, I know you have all power, but, and you hear people say foolish things like, well, I've got to live my life too. You can't just have everything about religion. You can't have everything about the church. Well, Jesus said he realized you and I have a life, but it focuses around his will, not mine. You go on, and not only did he say, I have all power, but he said, go you therefore and teach all nations. We live in a world that says, well, I know. I know everybody's created in the image of God, Genesis 1 and verse 27. I know every soul is precious in the eyes of God, John 3 and verse 16. But you know what those people are? Do you know what they have done, what their ancestors? God is no respecter of persons, yet we look and we find reason to be. Color of skin, something done by or to ancestors in times past, the gender they are, male or female. We look at them in different ways and we make excuses. Well, I know, but. And then he says, you teach them and you baptize them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Well, I know what you said about baptism, Jesus, but I just don't think it's that important. Well, truth is, God didn't ask you and I. He simply said, do it. And if he hadn't said anything else in the whole of the word about baptism, the very fact that the one who has all authority said, go do it, that tells me the necessity of baptism. But he tells us in Acts, the second chapter, and verse 38, it's for remission of sins. Mark 16 and verse 16, it's to be saved. Whenever Paul talked about his conversion, he was to be baptized to have his sins washed away. I mean, on and on you go. Well, I know what you say, but, and we begin to make excuses. And then teaching them to observe all things whatsoever commanded you. Well, I realize what that says, but things are different today. Our whole culture, our whole society is different. I mean, it's like we don't recognize the one who has all power and authority, able to look through the time before him and say, this is the word that is going to last till the end of the world. He didn't make a mistake. On and on you go. I read Matthew 28 and you can expand from there at everything that God has said. And it is so sad how you and I, can be guilty of looking, saying, I know what you said, but, and then explain away what it is. But the truth is, we only have fellowship with God if we walk in the light as he is in the light. 1 John 1 and verse 5. And in order to do that, we need to recognize who's in charge. He has all power and all authority. And what we're to do, his will. My father used to tell me, a thing was true. He said, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Well, that's especially true in the realm of religion. Thanks for listening. You have a great day, and I pray we will. I know we will if we recognize who He is, what His will is, and simply do that. Thank you again for joining us in this Bible study. We remind you, if you'd like to follow along in our daily Bible reading, the link below in the description of this video will give you the PDF so you can read right along with us. If you have any other questions or if you'd like information on a Bible study, contact us with the information provided on the screen before you.